I got flashbacks from last year. I got a massive gap I need to close right now.
I am going to attack at some point. After breaking a chain, I thought the race was done. Fuck. Just like last year, a crazy last turn. I think it's pretty good.
Good morning. It's very early. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm racing 200 kilometers. Bartje 200 2022. The last time I rode my mountain bike was last year's race. I haven't touched it for a year. The race starts at 7, so I'm gonna get some food in. I made overnight oats, drink some coffee. I prepared all my bottles last night. I need to wake up first.
1 hour later.
Lucky number 218 today. I'm in the front box. If you see my video from last year, you saw we started in waves in the race category. This year is run wave. It's going to be totally different. Last year I had to overtake so many riders. Now I'm going to try and stay in the front from the start.
Okay, here we go. As I said, I'm in the front box this time. Very different from last year where I had 400 riders in front of me in the start box. And now it was just a matter of staying in the front and making sure to make it to the first group, because that was gonna happen sooner or later. Even though I was quite far in the front of that start box, with the speeds up straight away in the beginning of that race, it stretches out immediately. Even being only a few rows back, you're still quite far from the front. You can see how it stretches out, and when the trails get narrow, being in position 30 is actually a long way from the first. But I knew there were plenty of wider roads coming up before we would hit that first single track, so I wasn't worried that much. Right here, I'm all the way in the front, and the speeds are pretty crazy for a mountain bike race. There's already some attacks in the front that are going on, and that will break up the peloton in pieces very fast. I was doing fine until we got to this point here. After this right turn, we went into a field with very long grass that had just been cut. All of this loose grass got stuck in my cassette, in my derailleur, in my chain. On half of my gears, my chain was skipping and I could just not push any power because of that. But I didn't want to stop here to pull it out, because I knew the single track, the first part of the single track was coming up. This was about 25k in the race, and I knew it was gonna be a key point. I just had to be there up front. And it wasn't just me, a lot of riders were struggling with this and they were having issues with their bike. So all this shit in my derailleur already cost me quite a few spots, but I couldn't do anything about it now, so I had to make the best out of it. So after this first bit of single track, the group was completely scattered already. There were very big gaps opening up in front of me, and it was very difficult for me to close it down. I had to ride in the smaller gears because my chain was skipping the whole time, so I couldn't really push hard, and I was already struggling to keep up. here I tried to follow one other really fast rider. He got stranded, he stopped to fix his bike, and he was hitting it so hard to close these gaps that I couldn't even follow him. And at some point I was just in between groups and I was trying to go as fast as I can, not to get left behind. And then at some point I spotted the first group back again. But then disaster struck.
Heeft iemand een kettingpons? Nee, die heb ik ook niet mee.
No! God! Please, no! No!
Dankjewel.
So I broke my chain, probably because of all the crap that was stuck in the cassette and the derailleur for like 20 kilometers long. I was lucky that just at that point there was a KMC guy standing there with food support for some other riders, and he had his van with him with all the tools and everything, so he could help me with a chain breaker and a 12-speed quick link. Quickly, I took out the broken link first, and then I tried to get some of this crap out of my cassette, since I was standing still anyway. It was all jammed up, and I couldn't even really get anything out, so I just mounted the chain and hoped for the best.
Kan je mijn derailleur even zo doen? Ja, doe. Ja.
I lost about 6 minutes fixing my chain, and in this time I got passed by lots and lots of riders.
Ja. Yo.
Okay, so after about 6 minutes of struggling with that broken chain, I was back at it. I've got no idea where I'm in the race right now. All I knew is I was pissed off and I was eager to race hard to the finish.
Alright, 50k in the race. I fixed my chain and now I'm in a chase. I got flashbacks from last year. I got massive gaps I need to close right now. Right there is a group in front of me. I want to get to them.
So it was a chase all over again, overtaking single riders and entire groups. All of that while keeping focused on the trails. But the signs were often very easy to miss.
God. Ik zag geen bordje hoor. ...63 kilometer. I've got another group right in front of me.
Here was another very large group of riders, and I was approaching them so fast. I knew the speed difference was significant and I would have to overtake them as soon as possible, just to keep on going. I wanted to maintain my momentum right now. And especially on these narrow trails and the single track, if I would have to wait behind them, that would just cost me so much time. So anywhere I could overtake, I was doing it. Of course, bridging all these gaps take a big chunk out of your energy. You're burning matches. So right here, when there was a bit of tarmac, I tried to get shelter, recover a little bit, and then just before it went off-road again, go. this race, I had 4 bottles of Martin with me. 3 on the bike, 1 in the rear pocket, plus a large stack of gels to take about 90 to 100 grams of carbohydrates every hour. Because lots of other riders had support from the sidelines, I wanted to avoid having to stop at the feed zones to refill. But with a race of 7+ hours, I would not have enough fluid with me, so I came up with a little trick just before the race. When I was in the car to the start line, I put a bag with 2 bottles next to the trail at about the 75-kilometer mark. At the moment I passed, I still had plenty of liquids, but I knew I needed them anyway at the later stage, so I grabbed the bag, took the bottles and swapped them with my empty bottles. As I was pushing on the front, there were like 50+ riders dragging behind me. And I was trying to shed some of these guys off and get a few strong riders with me to keep on pushing. The guys just behind me, they were wondering why I was pushing so hard because they wanted to keep the group together. I was not really into that because I tried to push hard to get up further in the race and not stay where I was.
Beter een beetje bij de groep blijven. Beter een beetje doorrijden. Ik heb niks aan een groep van 50 hoor.
This is a total deja vu from last year, where I started in the back of wave 2 and I had to overtake about 400 riders to get anywhere near the front of the race. And again, I'm by myself, jumping from group to group to get to the front and finish strong. It didn't take very long or I left these guys to jump the next gap. Approaching another group here, getting behind this guy in the red speed suit. I've seen him before in the beginning of the race. Now, if you're wearing a red speed suit to a 200-kilometer mountain bike race, you're either going to a Power Ranger party after the finish, or you mean freaking business. So I'm guessing I'm getting closer to the front, just passing the group here to see who's in and with how many they are. A quick chat about how many riders were in front of them. This was about spot 20 and further. The group was riding pretty fast right now, so I was happy to stay with them for a while. This would probably be more efficient than to jump an unknown gap straight away. Quick chat with these guys about what happened to me and why I took so long to get back.
Kettingponsje erbij, schakeltje eruit. Even mijn cassette schoongemaakt, ketting ingevet. Je kent het wel. Hey, hoeveel zitten er nog voor jullie? Ja, ik denk er 20. Oké. Ja, dat weet ik. Ja, dus, foto.
Through feed zone number 2 here. I didn't need anything since I grabbed those 2 bottles and actually nobody stopped. We all just carried on really quick and straight back into the fields.
Staan ze daar met lekkere broodjes, hamburger, pannenkoeken, alles.
These grass fields were really tough. The combination of bumps and high grass makes the drag super high and it's almost like you're riding up a very steep hill.
100 kilometers in the race. I caught up to this pretty big group. It's like 20 riders. Right now trying to recover a bit. All the catching up took a lot of energy. Eating a lot of food, drinking a lot of liquids. We still have a long way to go. We're only halfway. 3.5 hours in. Average speed is 30k an hour. So pretty fast. I am going to attack at some point.
This is about 130k into the race, riding behind Red Skin Suit again. From the stuff written on his kit, I could make up that he's a beach racer. We chatted about how he ended up here and that we both didn't have any support from the sidelines, so it was very hard to stay fueled till the end. As we were approaching feed zone 3, I was still topped up, so I continued again without stopping. I also wanted to take a piss, so that was a good opportunity for me. Beach Racer got back on the pace straight away, and it seemed like he was willing to work. So he was a good guy to bring along if I would jump off this group. The rest started hanging a bit more, so I was sure that this group would get smaller from here on. Guy in the Coca-Cola suit here on the left, he was in a very good spot, riding the hardpack bike lane instead of the loose sand trails.
Fuck.
Time to have a chat to Cola Boy, as he seemed to know where he was going, and also he had someone handing him food and drinks every couple kilometers. I guess he's a guy to keep an eye on.
Jij hebt wel een goede verzorging, hè? Ja. Die jongen fietst het rondje om je heen.
Dat zijn de tweede, dat zijn broer.
Oh!
Dat is een tweeling.
Hij staat elke keer weer op een andere plek. Zip, zip, zip.
Right now we're about 145 kilometers into the race, 4 hours and 52 minutes. And the general wind was gonna be more of a tailwind from here. So we were kind of estimating to finish within 7 hours. So that's gonna be a very quick 200-kilometer mountain bike race. Sections like these were so difficult. You're already pretty tired and you're going with quite a high speed over this super narrow track with high grass on both sides. So it's very important to focus and to stay right on that track, because if you go left and right, it was easy to lose control. So this was quite a bit of a difficult part. Right now we're going back onto the single track, and I was deliberately taking a bit of distance. The speed is low anyway, so there's not that much of drafting, but by keeping a little buffer in front of me, I can keep momentum through certain sections and turns, which will allow me to brake less and save some energy. It's very tempting to stay right on the wheel of the guy in front of you on these single tracks. But I think it's not always the best choice, unless the guy in front of you is super technical and super fast. Here, another feed zone, again, straight through it without stopping, back on the long grass. I'm just praying to get through this time without clogging up my cassette. I'm hitting it hard here to get to the front, and I did that for a reason. There's a technical piece of single track coming up with a few climbs, and this was a possible moment to attack and split up this group. There was no way to overtake on this trail, so I wanted to get to the front before we got there. If I would not be able to split off part of the group, then at least I could decide the pace on the climbs, so I wouldn't get dropped. Here's my chance. A wider bit to overtake and I stepped on it. I went fast, especially on the flats and on the downhill bits to see who could follow. I was trying to stretch up the elastic band of this group and maybe have it snap. I felt like most of these riders were riding to stay in the position they're in, but I was still aiming for a proper finish and catch up with whatever I could who was riding in front of me.
Trying to put some pressure on the field, maybe split some riders off. There's still a long line behind me, but...
Well, I gave it a go. The orange dude is still there, and there was still a long line of riders behind us, but I think the group did get a bit smaller. Behind the other riders again. I tried to relax and recover a bit from the big effort that I just put in. Cola Boy and Beach Cruiser, they're still here. We still have about an hour to go. And we're back on these cobbles and I remember them from last year. I rode this with the fully unlocked and it was actually super smooth. Cola Boy getting a fresh can of Coke. He does his name and the jersey justice.
Klaar voor de finale?
He came over to me and he mentioned that he lives here. He's got multiple people giving him food from the sidelines and he knows every single twist and turn of this race. So I figured he's a good guy to keep an eye on in the finale. Here we were back on the loose sand. This was a very difficult, very hard section. Heart rate shoots up. You can see others are struggling as well. It was very difficult to push big power numbers on these parts. And last year, because it was so wet, we didn't really have this very dry, loose sand. But this year, it was very different circumstances. As we have less than 10k to go, it's about time we start thinking about the finish. I've worked hard to get back up in the race, so from this moment I would try to draft a little bit more and save up that last bit of energy for the final last kilometers. I've got a completely different feeling in these final Ks than last year. Back then I was struggling with heavy cramps in both legs. I was fighting my body just to keep pedaling. But now I was on top of my game. Yes, very tired from the race, but still the legs felt pretty good. Most importantly, no cramps, and I started to feel confident about this finish. I just had to make a quick plan and shred these dudes to pieces as we would get to the finish line. One important thing to keep in mind is patience. Don't panic act on stuff, but make conscious decisions when you can. At this point in the race, people are going to break down. If they do, act fast and don't let these gaps open up too big, or you have to spend a lot more energy to close it. My position right now is a risky one. I'm in the last wheel to save energy towards the line, but the dude in front is hammering it on these single tracks to try and shed off some of the guys that were wasted. And if it breaks in front of me, like it just happened with Orange Guy, I'd have to close another gap and spend more energy again. So it's a fine line between risk and reward. 5k to go. We're now with 6 riders left, and all of them seemed keen to stay in the front. I'll let them hammer it if they want. I'm prepping a sprint for the finish at this stage. We're gonna leave the last little bit of single track behind us, and from here to the finish it's gonna be tarmac, gravel trails and dirt roads. Even some bike lanes right here as I'm checking my map display to see what's coming up. The finish is not the same route as last year when I actually got lost just before the finish. This time I studied the last few hundred meters on the map, but it's still quite hard to figure out what's what when you're actually racing there towards the line after 200 kilometers. Right here, Cola Boy made his way to the front while he had been resting behind me for a bit. This tells me we're getting closer. I had 2 choices right now coming into the finish line. Go long, try to gap the rest of these guys and stay ahead, or wait for somebody else to jump and then try to outsprint them just before the line. My focus is razor sharp. I do not want to get caught by surprise again. I feel good, so I decide to go for it. All in, full gas, and I punch it as hard as I could to get a gap on these guys. Right there, there's a sign 500 to go. 500 meters is a long way to sprint in a straight line. But here, there's still a few turns. I get as arrow as I can on this mountain bike. A sharp turn to the left. No idea what's coming up. I think this guy was telling me sharp right, but I'm in a left turn, so I was confused and I almost hit the fence. I glitched back to see where the rest is as I lost all of my speed and this could mess everything up. I re-accelerate and I can see the finishing arc. My legs are blown, they're cramping up and the guys are right behind me, pushing hard. I give everything I have and I still make it.
Die laatste bocht, waar slaat het nou weer op, joh?
Ik viel in de laatste bocht.
Ja, snap ik. Wat een kutbocht.
Je had hem moeten zien. Ik zag het al gebeuren.
Hoi. Een medaille?
Ja, en muntjes voor eten en drinken.
Oh, lekker zeg, dank je. Just like last year, a crazy last turn. And I think 7th place. After breaking a chain and changing my GoPro battery on the fly. I think it's pretty good. Jij hebt me gered, jongen, echt. Dankjewel.
That was a really dusty edition of this year's Bartje 200. It's time for a quick shower. Not very clean, but kind of fresh. Didn't eat a single banana today. Today's specs: 7 hours, 11 minutes, 206 kilometers, average speed 28.6, pretty much no elevation, 260 meters. I don't have any power data, but my heart rate, average heart rate was 148, maximum heart rate 181. Total paused time 6 minutes and 17 seconds to replace my chain. Took me 6 minutes. Actually, after my chain broke, I thought I was done. Definitely didn't expect to be finishing at 7th place. So from now on it's 2 weeks towards Haute Route. So if you wanna see how I do, make sure you subscribe to the channel and then click up there to see a bunch of other cool videos. Gonna see you next time. See ya!